I'm going to go through the whole hypothesis test, step 1 through 8, on this question for the p-value method, or using the p-value method, and then I'll go back and answer each part of the question. But this is from number 3 on section 8.2. It says, in a study of the accuracy of fast food drive-through orders, one restaurant had 31 orders that were not accurate among 360 orders observed. Use a 0.05 significance level to test the claim that the rate of inaccurate orders is equal to 10%. Does the accuracy rate appear to be acceptable? So from our 8-step hypothesis testing, step 1 is write the claim. So this says test the claim that the rate is equal to 10%. Because it's a percent, I know I'm using proportion. So P is equal to 0.10 or 0.1. The second part is write the opposite of that. So not equal to 0.10. And then step 3 is identify your null hypothesis and your alternative hypothesis. So I've got the one with the equals is your null hypothesis. So P equals 0.10, and the not equals is your alternative hypothesis. And then we're going to put a star by our original. So in this case, our null is our original. That's where our claim is that it's the null. And then step 4, we identify our significance level, which is alpha, is 0.05. And then we can say whether we're right-tailed, left-tailed, or two-tailed. And that comes from the sign from your alternative. Since this is not equal, we're going to be two-tailed. If it was less than, you'd be left-tailed. If it was greater than, you would be right-tailed. But since this is not equal, we're two-tailed, which means we're talking about the p-value, or the probability of half of 0.05 in each tail. You only divide it by 2 if you're two-tailed. Now once I have that, I'm going to go to step 5. I'm going to do that up here. Now step 5 is where you find your test statistic, and if you do StatCrunch, you can also find your p-value. That is on your formula sheet. We've done step 1, 2, 3, and 4. We're on step 5. We're using a proportion. So you could use this formula or StatCrunch. Now if you use the formula, you would have to find p hat in this case, which is x divided by n. If you have x and n, you can just plug it into StatCrunch. So we're going to go to StatCrunch, and then our x is 360 and our n is 31. So when we go to StatCrunch, we're doing a proportion. So you go stats, proportion stats, one sample with summary. So I've got number of successes is my x, 31. Number of observation is your n. And then my hypothesis test was p equals 0.10. And my alternative, h1, we say h1, they have ha here, is not equal to. And then compute. And then my test statistic is negative 0.878, and my p-value is 0.3797. And they've taken that area in one tail and doubled it to get the two tails. So I've got point I've got negative 0.878 and 0.379. So my z-test statistic is negative 0.88. And then step 6 is find the p-value, which I did that with the StatCrunch, is 0.3797, so it'll be 0.380. Now the step 7 with the p-value method is you're going to compare your p-value to your alpha. So my p-value is 0.380 and my alpha is 0.05. So this is greater than, my p-value is greater than my alpha. So that means I'm going to fail to reject the null. And that's right there on the formula sheet, step 7. You compare. If your p-value is greater than, you fail to reject. And from there, step 8 is just a combination of step 7 and where the claim was found. So we know, because I started, the claim was in the hypothesis, in the null hypothesis, and we failed to reject. So when we draw our conclusion, it's found and we failed to reject. So we're going to say there's not sufficient evidence to support. And that's the 8 steps of the hypothesis test. And that'll answer all of the questions that it goes through on there.